The air in the Kasari Station salvage yard was always thick. It wasn't just the smell of ozone, hot metal, and alien oils. It was the weight of lost things, of stories that ended in twisted debris. Su Min, a slender Ellerain with large, dark eyes and skin the color of twilight moss, moved through the canyon of scrap. Her delicate fingers, 3 on each hand, traced the cool hull of a ruined freighter. To most species, it was a sad place. To her, it was a library of possibilities. Her people were gentle. They grew things. They believed every piece of matter, even scrap, held the memory of its purpose. They were not built for the hard, loud edges of a place like Kasari. But Su Min was curious, and curiosity had brought her here, far from her system's green worlds, to work as a cataloger for a gruff old Torca salvager. A shiver went through her. A new shipment had just been dumped in the far sector, marked with the bright red glyphs of the Borland raiders. Borland scrap was dangerous. It was often booby-trapped, or worse, not entirely empty. Her boss had grunted a warning to avoid it until he could scan it. But a flicker of light from within the pile caught her eye. Not the steady glow of a power cell, but a weak, blinking pulse. A distress beacon. Or a trap. Her heart, a soft drum in her chest, beat faster. The rules were clear. Walk away. Report it. But the light blinked with a rhythm that felt like a plea. Against every whisper of caution in her mind, Su Min picked her way through the jagged metal dot. It was a small ship, or what was left of it. Its design was unfamiliar, angular, and compact, not like the flowing curves of Concorde craft or the brutal blocks of Borland vessels. A recent crash, then. The light came from a cracked console inside. And there, pinned under a collapsed bulkhead, was the pilot. Su Min froze. The being was larger than her, covered in a dark, flexible suit. Its skin was a strange, pale color. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with a mat of dark, short fur on top. A biped, a predator shape. The translator bead in her ear hissed static, unable to lock onto any known language from its weak groans. Blood, a shocking shade of red, was smeared across the floor. The being's chest rose and fell in short, ragged bursts. It was dying. Every instinct told her to run. Predator species were trouble. They brought violence. They were the reason her people lived in guarded gardens. The Borlands, the Krell, the Vorax, all shaped like this, more or less. All dangerous. But the being's hand twitched. Its head turned slightly, and one eye opened. It wasn't the sharp, focused eye of a hunter. It was clouded with pain, unfocused, desperate. It saw her. The eye held hers, and in it, Su Min did not see aggression. She saw a terrible, profound loneliness. The same loneliness she sometimes felt in this crowded, cold station dock. She could not walk away. Moving quickly, her hands trembling, she pulled her med kit from her satchel. Ellerain medicine was good for tissue repair and pain. She didn't know if it would work on this species, but she had to try. She sprayed a coagulant on the worst wound on its leg. She injected a broad-spectrum analgesic. The being flinched, but did not snarl. Its eye stayed on her, watching. "Be still," she whispered, though she knew it couldn't understand. "I am trying to help." The bulkhead was too heavy. She needed tools. Risking everything, she ran back to the main yard, grabbed a portable gravity lifter, and hurried back. With a whine, the device lightened the metal, just enough for her to pull the being free. It was heavy, solid with muscle. She dragged it, leaving a smeared trail. To a hidden service alcove she used for breaks. It passed out again. Now came the truly dangerous part. She couldn't leave it here. Port security, if they found it, would either claim it for bounty or kill it as a biohazard. And if it was a predator, other predators like the Borlands would come looking. She had a small, run-down hab unit in a quiet sector. It was her only chance. Using a cargo sled she sometimes used for interesting finds, she covered the being with a tarp and began the long, nerve-wracking journey home. Every passing alien, every clang of machinery made her jump. She expected a clawed hand to drop on her shoulder at any moment. Somehow, she made it. Inside her modest unit, with its soft glowing fungi lights and tapestries of woven vines from home, the being looked even more out of place. She laid it on her sleeping pallet and cleaned its wounds properly. Up close, she saw its face was not monstrous. It had a blunt, strong shape, a straight nose, a firm jaw now slack with unconsciousness. It seemed young. Her scanner, designed for biological samples, gave her fragmented data. High body temperature, dense bone structure, a complex oxygen-hungry circulatory system. Definitely a predator, but one with a strange, delicate complexity. Hours passed. She sat on the floor, watching it. The sun lamps of the station dimmed, simulating night. She was dozing when a sound woke her. The being was awake. It had propped itself up on its elbows, movements stiff with pain. Its eyes, two of them, a deep brown, scanned the room rapidly, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings, the plants, the tapestries. Her alarm flashed across its face. It tried to speak, a rough, dry sound. Su Min held up her empty hands, the universal sign of peace. She slowly reached for a water bulb and offered it. It stared at her, then at the bulb. Cautiously, it took it. Its hands were large, with 5 fingers. It drank greedily, water spilling down its chin. It spoke again. A series of harsh, guttural, yet melodic sounds. Her translator bead sizzled. Language not in database. Syntax chaotic. Isolating core concepts. It was trying to communicate. It pointed to itself. Jin, it said, the word clear. Jin? Su Min repeated, the sound strange on her tongue. Jin nodded. He then pointed at her, a question on his face. Su Min, she said. He tried to say it, mangling the soft vowels. A ghost of a smile touched his lips and vanished as pain returned. He looked around again, the alarm returning. He patted his suit, finding empty pockets. His face fell. He made a shape with his hands, a square, and held them to his chest, looking at her with a new, urgent questioning. He was looking for something. Something important. Su Min thought back. In the wreckage. She had grabbed a few small items near him, thinking they might be identifiers. From her satchel, she pulled out a cracked data slate, a broken navigational module, and a small, flat metal object. Jin's eyes locked on the metal object. He reached for it, his hand shaking. Su Min placed it in his palm. It was a locket. Jin pressed a hidden clasp. It opened, though the hinge was damaged. Inside was not a picture of another of his species, as she expected. It was a crystal display, cracked but still functioning. It showed a place. A stunning, impossible place. A blue-green expanse of water meeting a sky of soft orange at sunset. Strange, smooth-shaped landforms rose from the water. It was peaceful, beautiful. It looked like a garden world, but unlike any she had ever seen. Jin looked at the image, then at Su Min. He pointed to the picture, then to himself. Earth, he said, the word full of weight. Then he pointed to the picture, then to her, and back to the picture. He was trying to tell her something. He was trying to share it. Her translator bead finally caught a stable, simple concept from his emotional tone and the context. It whispered the translation into her mind. Gratitude, home, sanctuary. He was thanking her. He was showing her his home. In this small, silent exchange, the fear in Su Min's heart melted away, replaced by a dawning, terrifying wonder. She hadn't just saved a living being. She had saved a person, and she had no idea what that would mean. The quiet in Su-min's hab unit felt heavy now, filled with the sound of Jin's breathing and the faint hum of the environmental systems. He slept again, the locket clutched in his hand. Su-min watched the cracked image of the blue world called Earth. It was a place of profound calm. It did not look like the home of monsters, that her own device buzzed, making her jump. It was a message from her boss. Heard Borland's scrap got dumped in Yard 7. Stay clear. Vec is on the station, and he's in a foul mood. Looking for something. A cold feeling settled in Su-min's stomach. Vec, the Borland slaver, was a hulking presence on Kasari, a being of pure, brutal muscle and short temper. His kind saw the universe as a larder of resources and labor. If he was looking for something, it was because he believed he owned it. She looked at Jin. He was the something. Jin stirred, his eyes opening. They were clearer now, more focused. He saw her alarm. He slowly sat up, wincing. He pointed at her device, then made a slicing motion across his throat. Danger. He then pointed to himself, then to the door. He was telling her he should leave. No, Su-min said, the word firm. She pointed to his injured leg. You cannot. They needed to talk. Her translator bead was useless for his complex language, but she had an old linguistic pad used for cataloging alien artifacts. It learned through association. She held it up, pointing at the water bulb. Water, she said clearly. Jin understood. Mole, he said, his voice rough. The pad registered the object and the two words. She pointed at herself. Su-min. Su-min, he repeated, better this time. He pointed at himself. Jin, the session began. Over the next few hours, they built a basic, clumsy vocabulary. Nouns first. Table. Wall. Light. Food. She offered him a nutrient paste, which he ate without complaint, though his expression was plain. It was not his food. The word for his food, he said, was bibimbap. The pad struggled with the sounds. He was not a soldier. He made a flying motion with his hand, then mimed looking through a viewer, pointing at imaginary stars and plants. A scientist. An explorer. His ship had been mapping a nebula when it was attacked. He didn't know by who. A bright flash, then systems failed. He crashed here. Su-min told him where here was. Kasari Station. Galactic Concord territory, but lawless on the fringes. She mimed the tall, aggressive shape of a Borland. Jin's face hardened. He knew them. He called them poachers. He made a gesture of taking something precious and destroying it. They were making progress. But time was against them. Jin pointed to the station layout on her wall screen. He pointed to the communications array sector. He needed to send a message. To tell someone he was alive, it was too risky. The main comms were monitored, especially with Vec around. Su-min shook her head. She had a different idea. She accessed the public bulletins on her screen, showing him the lost and found notices, the bounty boards. She pointed to an image of a strange plant with a reward for its location. She then pointed at him and at the screen. They will look for you here. Jin frowned. He reached for the linguistic pad. With careful, slow strokes, he drew two symbols. They were not pictures. They were angular, complex shapes, letters. K-O-L. He tapped them, then pointed insistently at the comms array. It was a code. An identifier. He needed to get it into the system. A beacon for his own people. Su-min bit her lip. She had a friend, another Eliran named Miri, who worked in data sanitation. She could maybe upload a small, hidden packet. It was a terrible risk. If Vex people were monitoring data traffic, A heavy thud shook her door. Su-Min froze. Jin went completely still, his eyes sharp, his body tense like a coiled spring. It was not the sound of a visitor. It was the sound of a fist. The door crackled, a voice snarling through. "Open up! Station security sweep?" It wasn't station security. She knew the polite, bored tone of the actual security. This voice was deep, guttural, and impatient. A Borland voice. She looked at Jin, panic in her eyes. He was already moving, silently, and with a predator's grace that startled her. He pushed himself off the pallet, ignoring the pain, and moved toward the small sanitation closet, the only hiding place. He gestured for her to open the door. The fist thudded again. "Last chance before we break it." Su-Min took a breath, smoothing her robe. She opened the door just a crack. Vec filled the doorway. He was massive, his gray, pebbled skin stretched over thick muscle. His small, dark eyes looked down at her with contempt. He sniffed the air. "Ellerin, we are scanning for unauthorized life signs. An energy spike was traced to this sector. You had something that doesn't belong to you." He didn't ask. He stated, "I have nothing," Su-Min said, her voice small but clear. "I am a salvager. I have many parts. They give off energy." Vec pushed past her, his bulk forcing the door wide. Two other, smaller Borlands followed him in. They carried scanners that whined as they swept the room. Su-Min's heart hammered against her ribs. "Your kind is soft," Vec said, picking up a delicate glass fungus lamp and dropping it. It shattered on the floor. "You are also terrible liars." The wreck in Yard 7, human biosigns were present. Then they vanished. "My wreck. My human." He said human like it was a type of fruit. A commodity. The scanner in the hands of one Borlang gave a sharp ping. It was pointed at the sanitation closet. Vec smiled, a frightening sight. Su-Min was trembling, but she stepped between Vec and the closet. "There is no one. Your machine is wrong." Vec backhanded her. The blow was casual, but it sent her sprawling to the floor, her vision swimming. The taste of copper filled her mouth. The closet door was ripped from its hinges. Jin stood there, not hiding. He stood straight, his weight on his good leg. He held a piece of broken pipe from the wreckage, held like a club. His face was a mask of cold anger. He looked at Su-Min on the floor, and the coldness turned to fury. Vec laughed. "See? A fighter. Good. They fetch a higher price." He gestured to his crew. "Take it. The Ellerin too." Interference with a lawful salvage claim. The two Borlands moved in. Jin moved faster. He was hurt, but he was strong. The pipe cracked against the first Borland's arm, and the alien roared in pain. The second one lunged, and Jin dodged, using the Borland's own momentum to shove him into a wall, but Vec was already there. He didn't bother with weapons. He grabbed Jin by the front of his suit and lifted him off the ground. Jin struck Vec's arm with the pipe, but it was like hitting stone. Vec squeezed, and Jin gasped, the pipe clattering to the floor. "Enough," Vec growled. He threw Jin to the other Borlands, who clamped heavy magnetic restraints on his wrists. They dragged him toward the door. Vec turned to Su-Min, who was struggling to her knees. "You should have left it to die, little planter. Now you belong to me as well." A lesson for the station. As they were hauled into the grimy corridor, Jin caught Su-Min's eye. He didn't look afraid. He looked determined. As the Borland shoved him, his hand went to his chest, to a hidden seam on his suit. He pressed it, hard dot in the chaos of the arrest. No scanner noticed the tiny, ultra-high frequency pulse that shot from Jin's suit through the station's hull and out into the silent, star-filled dark. It was a single, repeating burst of data. Just 3 letters. C-O-L. in a dim corner of the station's commerce ring, a human man in a patched trader's jacket sat nursing a drink. His name was Tae-seok. A silent alarm vibrated against his wrist. He looked down at the screen on his comm. A map of the station lit up, and a single pulsing dot appeared in a residential sector. Next to it, a status changed from missing to detained, and below that, the identifier, Colony Scientific Protectee Priority Alpha. Tae-seok stood up, threw credits on the bar, and melted into the crowd. His calm face was now a slate of focused intensity. The message was received. The rescue was no longer a quiet search. It was a countdown. The cell on Vec's ship, the Iron Prophet, was not designed for comfort. It was a metal box with a drain in the floor and a dim, buzzing light in the ceiling. The air smelled of stale sweat, ozone, and something sour that Su Min could not name. Magnetic cuffs held their wrists to the wall. Jin's were tighter. He sat slumped against the cold metal, his face pale beneath the bruises. His eyes were closed, but Su Min could tell he was not sleeping. He was concentrating, listening to the sounds of the ship, the heavy tread of Borland boots, the growl of the engines powering up for departure from Kasari Station. "I am sorry," Su Min whispered, her voice echoing in the empty space. The words felt useless. Chin opened his eyes. He shook his head slowly. "No, thank you," he said, using the simple Ellerin phrase she had taught him. His voice was rough but clear. He tried to offer her a small, weary version of his smile. It did not reach his eyes. Those were calculating, scanning their prison. "Where do they take us?" she asked, not expecting him to know. He understood the question. He looked at the door, then made a gesture with his cuffed hands, fingers walking, then a chopping motion. A market, a slave market. Su Min felt a cold dread settle deep inside her. Her people had stories of such places. They were the darkest of fairy tales, warnings to never stray too far. To be property, to have your will, your very self, taken and sold. She began to shake. Chin saw her fear. He shifted as much as his restraints allowed. "Su Min," he said, getting her attention. He took a slow, deliberate breath, then let it out. He did it again, nodding for her to follow. A breathing exercise. A simple act of control. She mimicked him, the cold air hitting her throat. In and out. The panic receded, just a little. "My friend is looking," Jin said, struggling for the words. "Tae-seok, he is good at finding." He tried to convey strength with his expression, but Su Min saw the shadow of doubt. He did not know if his signal had been received. He did not know if help would come in time. Hours passed, marked only by the change in the engine's pitch as the ship entered the faster-than-light stream. They were now far from any station, any help. The door clanged open. Vec filled the doorway, a datapad in his thick hand. He looked at them like a farmer inspecting livestock. "The human is strong, recovering fast." "Good," he grunted, more to himself than to them. "Fighter spirit. The gladiator pits on Xylos will pay a premium." He then turned his gaze to Su Min. "A plant eater. Fragile. Nervous system too delicate for hard labor. But the collectors of rare species might like you. A living ornament. A conversation piece." He chuckled, a sound like rocks grinding. Jin's body went rigid. A low sound, almost a growl, came from his throat. Vec noticed. He stepped into the cell, leaning close to Jin. "You have something to say, human? Your kind are nothing out here. Loud, but weak. You scatter on a few worlds and think you matter. You are a curiosity, a novelty that breaks easily." He reached out and roughly tapped Jin's head. "Your people are not coming. They are not even a whisper on the galactic wind." He stood back, a cruel idea lighting his eyes. In fact, let's give them something to listen to. Let's show the galaxy what happens to those who cross the Borland trade. He gestured to a hovering camera drone that floated in behind him. Its red eye lit up. VEK began a broadcast. He used the common trade tongue, his voice projected for an audience. Attention, Concord channels and independent traders. Behold the consequence of weakness and theft. The drone panned to show Su Min, shivering and trying to make herself small. This Ellerin creature violated salvage law. It stole my property. A camera then focused on Jin, who stared directly into the lens, his jaw clenched. And this is the property. A human. It thinks it is people. It thinks its kind will save it. Vex stepped into the frame, his face a picture of triumphant arrogance. This is the natural order. The strong claim. The weak serve. The human species is silent. They are distant. They are irrelevant. Let this be a lesson to all who find something that belongs to a Borland. You keep it. You become part of the cargo. He ended the transmission with a final smirk. The broadcast, tagged with Vex identification codes, would bounce across relay stations, filling the public news feeds and trading vans. It was a boast. A declaration of ownership. Vec left, the door ceiling shut again, leaving them in the buzzing silence. Jin was breathing heavily now, not from fear, but from a fury so hot it seemed to radiate from him. He pulled against his cuffs, the metal groaning, but they held fast. After a moment, he sagged, the fight draining into despair. He looked at Su Min, and for the first time, she saw real apology in his eyes. He had brought this upon her not far away, on the very edge of galactic Concord space. The transmission was received. A small, stealthy listening post, hidden in the debris field of a dead star, picked up the signal. The post was operated by a single human officer, a woman named Hannah. Her job was to listen, to sift through the noise of the galaxy for certain keywords, certain signatures. The words human and Ellerin triggered an immediate alert. She watched the broadcast, her face at first neutral, then hardening into a mask of cold stone as Vex spoke. She saw the fear in the Ellerin's large eyes. She saw the defiant, trapped fury in the human male's face. She ran their images through the secure database. The Ellerin had no file. A civilian. The human's face resolved in seconds. Data scrolled beside his image.name. Jin. Min-J. Affiliation. Colony Science Corps. Status. Protected civilian, non-combatant. Last mission, Deep Space Botanical Survey. Priority. Alpha. Retrieval. Mandatory. Hannah's fingers flew across her console. The broadcast had originated from the Borland vessel Iron Prophet. Its last known trajectory was plotted. Its likely destination was calculated, the Xylos system. She composed a flash message, the highest priority. It contained the video, the ship ID, the coordinates, and the two words that mattered most: Alpha Kidnap, Civilian and Guardian. She opened a direct channel, one that used technology the Concord did not fully understand. It was a quantum link, instantaneous, to a specific point in the Sol system, a place called Fleet Command. On Earth, in a quiet room buried under a mountain, the message arrived. It was decoded. The video played. For a long minute, there was only the sound of breathing in the dark. Then, a calm, steady voice gave a single order: send the response. Back in her listening post, Hannah received her new orders. They were not about diplomacy. They were not about contacting the Concord. They were about action. She was to send a direct, open-channel broadcast back to the source of Vex's message, and to every relay that had carried it. She took a moment to compose herself. Then, she activated the channel. Her face, stern and uncompromising, would now replace Vex on any screen still tuned to that feed. Her voice, speaking in the common trade tongue, was calm, clean, and sharp as a knife. To the individual who showed compassion to a son of Earth, she began, her eyes looking directly from every screen. Your act has been seen. A pause, letting the words sink into the silent void. Your captor has been judged. Another pause, heavier than the first. Stand by. The transmission ended. It was not a promise of negotiation. It was not a plea. It was a statement of fact. A verdict dot in the dark cell of the Iron Prophet. Su-Min and Jin did not see this. They only felt the ship hurtle onward, carrying them toward a fate they believed was sealed. They did not know that across the vast, empty reaches of space, a single, simple message had just been sent, and that an entire planet had, in that moment, gone to war. The Iron Prophet shuddered as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The rough transition meant Vec wasn't paying for smooth gravitic drives. In the cell, the sudden return to normal space was a violent lurch that made Su-Min gasp. Jin braced himself, his eyes fixed on the ceiling as if he could see through it. They were in the Xylos system approach lane. A lawless place. The final stretch. The ship's intercom crackled to life with Vec's voice, full of smug satisfaction. Prepare for docking and inventory scan. Buyers have been notified. The special lots will be processed first. The special lots were them. Su-Min's breathing became quick and shallow. The breathing exercises were forgotten. The reality was a physical weight on her chest. Jin spoke, his voice low and urgent. Su-Min, look at me. She forced her eyes to his. He was straining against his cuffs again, not in rage, but to reach her. He couldn't. My people have a saying, he said, struggling for the simple words. You are not alone. He said each word clearly, willing her to believe it. She wanted to. But all she could hear was the heavy tread of boots outside the door. Suddenly, a different sound cut through the hum of the ship. It was a sharp, high-pitched alert from the bridge. A proximity alarm. Then came a voice over the comms, a voice that was not Borland. It was calm, human, and it spoke in the common trade tongue. Borland vessel Iron Prophet. This is the Terran scout vessel Morningstar. You are holding protected persons. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Surrender them peacefully. Silence. Then the sound of Vec roaring in disbelief from the bridge. What is this? A trick? Scan them. In the cell, Jin's head snapped up. A wild, impossible hope flashed across his face. Tae Siok, he breathed. Su-Min stared. How? They were in deep space. On the bridge of the Iron Prophet, Vec stared at his sensor screen. A single, small ship hung in the void ahead of them. Its design was unfamiliar, sleek, angular, and dark. It was tiny compared to his bulky freighter. A scout. One ship. His fear turned back into contempt. A bluff. A pathetic human bluff. He slammed his hand on the comm. Morningstar? You are one ship. I am a Borland trade master. You will move, or I will turn you to dust. He nodded to his weapons officer. Target them. A warning shot across their bow. The Iron Prophet's old but heavy laser cannon charged and fired a searing bolt of red energy. It was meant to miss close, to scare. The Morningstar didn't dodge. A shimmering blue field, hexagonal like a honeycomb, flashed into existence around it for a split second. The laser bolt struck it and shattered into harmless light. The small ship didn't even drift an inch. Vec's jaw went slack. Point defense shield technology, military grade, expensive, impossible for a scout. A calm voice returned. That was your warning. Release your prisoners. This is your final chance to surrender. Rage, hot and foolish, burned away Vec's confusion. Surrender to a single ship? The ridicule would destroy him. he would be a laughingstock. No, you surrender to me. All weapons fire. Destroy it. The Iron Prophet's full arsenal lasers. 2 old missile pods erupted, filling the space between the ships with lethal light. Inside the cell, Su-Min cried out as the ship shook from the wreck oil of its own weapons. Jin pulled at his cuffs, his eyes desperate. "Get down, down," he yelled. On the Morningstar's bridge, Tae-Seok watched the incoming storm of fire on his screen. His face was calm. He tapped a single command. Behind the Morningstar, space itself seemed to tear. It wasn't a violent rip, but a smooth, silent parting of the stars. From this impossible rift, 3 ships slid into reality. They were not sleek. They were massive. Their hulls were a matte, non-reflective gray, shaped like broadswords. They bore no bright markings, only a simple, stark emblem on their sides. A clenched human fist, gently cradling a single green sprout. They were Terran dreadnoughts. The unyielding resolve, the Guardian's oath, and the furious dawn. The Galactic Concord had files on them. Theories. They called them myths, propaganda. Until now, not a single bolt of laser fire, and every missile heading for the Morningstar, was intercepted by pinpoint beams of light from the lead dreadnought. The Borland volley vanished in a series of silent, distant flashes. On the Iron Prophet, the sensor screens screamed with alarms. The 3 new ships were locking weapons. Their power signatures were off the charts, dwarfing his own. Vex stood frozen, his bravado washed away by a tidal wave of cold terror. This was not a border skirmish. This was an annihilation waiting to happen. The comm channel hissed, then a new voice came through. It was a woman's voice. It was calm, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. It was Commander Hannah. Borland vessel. You fired upon a Terran ship after a direct warning. You are holding a Terran-protected civilian and the sentient being who aided him. You have 3 seconds to relinquish all control of your vessel. 3. They can't. Vex stammered, looking at his crew's terrified faces. 2. Shields. Full power. Evasive, he screamed. 1. The unyielding resolve fired, but not to destroy. A single thick beam of brilliant blue energy lanced out. It was a magnetic integrity pulse. It struck the Iron Prophet. Every circuit, every engine, every weapon on the Borland ship flared and died at once. The lights went out, replaced by dim emergency strips. The hum of the engines became a dying groan. The ship was now a silent, dead piece of metal floating in the dark dot in the cell. The lights died. The magnetic cuffs deactivated with a clunk, freeing their wrists. Jin was on his feet instantly, grabbing Su-Min's arm to steady her in the sudden darkness. It's okay. It's the response. They're here. The sound of metal shrieking echoed through the ship. Not an explosion. The sound of something cutting. The main hull was being breached. They could hear panicked Borland shouts, the clatter of weapons being grabbed, then the sharp, precise cracks of energy fire. But it was not the wild red bolts of Borland weapons. It was the crisp, bright blue flashes of human plasma rifles. The sounds of fighting were short, efficient, and moved fast through the ship toward them. The door to their cell glowed orange around the edges, then was cut free with a shower of sparks. It fell inward with a deafening crash. Standing in the smoke-filled hallway were figures in matte gray armor. They were human, but they looked like giants, like machines. Their helmets had dark visors that glowed with a soft green light. One of them stepped in, rifle raised, scanning, his visor fixed on Jin. Data scrolled across it. He lowered his rifle and gave a sharp nod. "Dr. Jin, we're here to take you home." His voice was filtered, but kind. Then the armored soldier turned his helmet toward Su-Min. He did something she did not expect. He placed a fist over the center of his chest, where the heart would be, and bowed his head slightly. A sign of respect. Su Min of the Ellurin, the filtered voice said. You are safe now. By the Guardian Compact, we stand for you. More soldiers entered, one with a medic's symbol on his shoulder. He went to Jin, scanning his injuries. Jin pointed to Su Min. Her first. Vec hit her. The medic moved to Su Min, his movements gentle despite the armor. He scanned her face where Vec had struck her, applying a cool spray that took the pain away instantly. Su Min watched it all, her mind unable to process the speed, the power, the sheer impossibility of it. These giants in gray had come from nowhere. They had stocked a warship without destroying it. They had bowed to her. Jin limped over to her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. He was looking at the soldiers with pride and with a profound relief. I told you, he said softly. You are not alone. From the bridge, a soldier's voice came over the team's comms. Captain, we have the Borland crew detained. Vec is in custody. He's requesting to speak to the commander. He says it's a misunderstanding. Jin and Su Min were led out into the ruined hallway. As they passed the open doorway to the bridge, they saw Vec on his knees, surrounded by Terran soldiers. The hulking Borland looked small now. He saw Jin, and his eyes widened. Then he saw Su Min, and confusion, then dawning. Horrific understanding washed over his face. The human soldier beside him, the one who had first entered their cell, leaned close to Vec. The Borland flinched. Misunderstanding? The soldier's filtered voice echoed in the quiet bridge. No, there is no misunderstanding. You were very clear in your broadcast. And so were we. The medical bay of the unyielding Resolve was a place of soft light and quiet sounds. The air was clean, smelling faintly of citrus and ozone. Su Min sat on the edge of a treatment bed, her legs dangling. A human medic, a young woman named Jia, had just finished applying a regenerative patch to her cheek. The sting was gone. Jia smiled. All done. The bruise will be gone in an hour. Her voice was kind. She offered Su Min a cup of something warm and sweet. It was tea, but unlike any tea Su Min had ever tasted. It was comforting. Through a large viewport, she could see space. But it was not the empty dark she knew. The massive shapes of the two other dreadnoughts, the Guardian's Oath and the Furious Dawn, hung silently against the starfield, guardians in the void. Between them, the dark, dead hull of the Iron Prophet was held in a web of tractor beams. Tiny shuttles buzzed around it like insects. Jin entered, now cleaned up and wearing simple gray clothes. The limp was almost gone, thanks to their advanced medicine. He sat beside her, following her gaze. They are taking the Borland crew onto the Furious Dawn, he explained quietly. They will be held for trial. For piracy, kidnapping, and assault. And Vec? Su Min asked, her voice small. Vec is already on his way to a secure facility. He will answer for his crimes. Jin's tone left no doubt about the outcome. But not by us. By a Concord Alliance court. We are giving them the evidence. The broadcast he made is all they need. Su Min shook her head, trying to make sense of it all. They came. For me. They said a name. The Guardian? The Guardian Compact, a new voice said. Commander Hana walked into the medical bay. She was not in armor, but in a dark blue uniform. She looked younger than her voice had sounded, but her eyes were old and knowing. She gave Jin a nod. Dr. Jin, welcome back. Commander, Jin said, with clear respect. Hana turned to Su Min. She did not bow this time, but her posture was one of deep respect. Su Min, may I explain? Su Min just nodded, gripping her warm cup. A long time ago, Hana began, sitting on a stool opposite them. Humans were new to the galaxy. We were weak, scattered, and naive. We were prey for species like the Borlins. We learned a hard lesson. We saw that in the vast dark, kindness is the rarest, most fragile thing. It must be protected. Not with words. With action. She gestured to the ships outside. So we made a rule. A law for ourselves. Not a treaty with others. A promise to ourselves. We call it the Guardian Compact. It is simple. If any being of any species risks themselves to protect a human in need, they place themselves under our protection. Forever. Their act of compassion becomes our duty of consequence. Su Min stared. A whole rule? For one person being kind? For the idea of kindness, Jin said softly. For proving that in a cruel universe, someone will still choose to help a stranger. Hana nodded. We monitor channels. We listen. When Vec made his broadcast, he wasn't just bragging. He was issuing a challenge to that idea. He said kindness is weakness. He said the strong may crush the weak without consequence. She leaned forward slightly. So Earth went to war. Not for territory. Not for resources. For you. To prove to every Vec in the galaxy that they are wrong. That compassion is a strength so great, it can summon an armada. The scale of it was too large. Su Min thought of her small Hab unit, her fear, her simple decision to not let a creature die alone. That small ripple had caused this tsunami. What happens now? Su Min asked. To me? That, Hana said, standing, is entirely your choice. You have options. We can return you to Kasari Station with our guarantee of your safety and a new beginning. Or you can come with us. See Earth. You could work in our xenobotany gardens if you wish. Or simply live in peace under our protection for as long as you want. She smiled. Dr. Jin has already offered you a place as a guest for as long as you like. Jin looked at Su Min. I would like to show you the real Jeju, he said, pointing to the image on the viewport, which now changed to show a blue-green planet, beautiful and serene. It was the place from his locket. Tears, warm and sudden, filled Su Min's eyes. It was not fear. It was a release of a tension she had carried since the moment she heard that first faint ping in the scrapyard. She was not cargo. She was not an ornament. She was a person who had done a good thing, and an entire civilization had declared it the most important thing in the galaxy. I would like to see your garden world, she whispered. Hana's comm device chimed. She listened and addressed them both. The Galactic Concord Council is demanding an emergency conference. They are upset. They call our actions an unprovoked act of aggression. They want an explanation. A faint, hard smile touched her lips. Would you two like to give them one? Minutes later, Su Min found herself on the immense bridge of the unyielding resolve. It was calm, a hushed space with officers working quietly at their stations. A large screen dominated the front wall. On it were the faces of the Concord Council representatives of a dozen species, including a stern Elluran elder. They looked anxious, angry, and confused. The human ambassador, a calm man named Lee, was speaking. Deplore the unilateral use of force in Concord jurisdictional space. This is a matter for Concord courts. Hana stepped into view of the screen, with Jin and Su Min beside her. Ambassador Lee, esteemed counsel. The Borland Vec declared his own law. He broadcast his crimes and his philosophy for all to see. He claimed the strong may prey on the weak. He specifically targeted a civilian who showed mercy to one of ours. This was not a crime against a person. It was a crime against the principle that holds civilization together. The Elluran elder spoke, her voice trembling. You have brought war machines to our border. For one Elluran, it is. disproportionate. Su Min felt a surge of unexpected courage. She stepped forward, closer to the screen. The council saw her, the young Eliering from the broadcast, now standing straight on a human bridge. "I am Su Min," she said, her voice clear in the quiet room. "I only helped someone who was hurt." Vec told the galaxy this was a mistake, that I was a fool. She looked at the faces of the powerful beings, her large eyes earnest. Then Earth came. They said my mistake was worth more than his worship. They said my foolishness was a reason to fight. She paused, letting her words hang in the silence. "Which idea do you want to be true in your galaxy?" The council stared, speechless. The simple question hung in the air. Impossible to answer. Hana spoke the final words. "The Guardian Compact is now in effect. This is not a negotiation. It is a statement of fact. The war is not with the Concord. It is with the lawless cruelty the Concord has allowed to fester. We will protect our own, and we will protect those who protect them. This is our line. Do not cross it." The transmission ended. The council's shocked faces vanished from the screen. Later, on a quiet observation deck, Su Min and Jin looked at the stars. Earth grew larger in the viewport, a swirl of blue and white. "It is so big," Su Min said. "And so small," Jin replied. "Just one world among so many." He looked at her. "But it is yours now, too, if you want it." Su Min thought of the salvage yard, of the cold cell, of the terrifying might of the dreadnoughts, and the gentle hands of the medic. She thought of the locket picture, and the real planet now before her. They all came. "Because of a thank you?" she asked, still marveling. Chin finally gave her his full, warm, genuine smile, the one that reached his eyes. "I tried to tell you, Su Min. We don't just say thank you." He placed his fist over his heart, the human sign of a promise kept. "We prove it."